Welcome back to the Super Sim series, where I've decided to make just one sim who will gain almost every trait, master every skill, graduate with all of the university degrees, reach the top of every career, and complete every collection. Last episode, Tina embarked on a quest to better the world. She combined her spellcaster prowess with a few ghostly powers and a very strong drink of choice to rid the world of the most evil vampire in existence, Vlad. Along the way, relationships were strained, with Tina and Jajamar breaking up just days after they made their relationship official. And after Vlad had been defeated and his pipe organ stolen, Tina then decided it was time to move on from the spellcaster life, but not before bestowing the power of magic onto her mother Sally first. It was during this time that none other than the Grim Reaper had taken notice of her, and while she lit a candle for Sergio's ghost, she mulled over Grim's job offer that she'd previously turned down. As she thought about becoming a Reaper, Tina headed off to Morningvale within the Ravenwood. Here she viewed the bell tower and read a little more about the Order of Lenore at the Tarot Tome Shrine where she'd previously obtained the High Spellcaster card. They were a mysterious group who were said to hold the key to summoning a powerful ghost named Lady Ravendancer Goth, and this had Tina curious. And so she knocked on the front door of Lenore member Esla's house nearby, where by following a little chatter, Tina learnt more about the Order, and in particular that they were in possession of 8 tarot cards that were part of what was needed to summon Lady Ravendancer. To receive them, Tina would need to complete favors for them, and so she offered to help Esla out with 2 tasks. One which involved baking Percival the Cowplanter cake, and another which required Tina to become a temporary ghost and acquire ghost essence that she already had. It was too easy. Tina made her way out of Esla's house and to Percival at the nearby square before feeding and afterwards petting him. Following this, she went and had an out-of-body experience in the nearby Baleful Bog to temporarily turn into a ghost. And feeling curious, she then used her intuition on the Baleful Bog, which saw her obtain the Empress Tarot card. Tina then ghostly traversed back to Esla's house, and with a little help from her always welcome trait, she used Esla's kitchen to whip up a delicious chocolate cake before taking a slice from it and gobbling it down. Oh, and yeah, she took another slice for Esla too. Not caring one bit that it was 2 AM, Tina then woke Esla up before delivering to her both the essence and the cake that she was after. And as a reward, she gave Tina the Strength and the Judgment tarot cards. Judgment. Tina's mind lingered on the card, and the soccer ball she was now juggling. But was it a sign? Was she meant to become a Reaper and guide souls to the afterlife where they'd maybe be judged? Truthfully, Tina had no clue, but it was a good enough sign for her, and after a small chat with Esla and Zulika, Tina decided that she was going to join the Reaper career. She immediately called up Grim and told him that she wanted in. They gleefully welcomed her, letting her start out at rank 3 in the career as a dust-to-dust buster, and this even sparked up a friendship between the pair. After some more ghostly traversal training, Tina's out-of-body experience wore off and she returned back to her human form, and it was now home time. But along the way, Tina took a quick detour and visited the Aether household. And after she was welcomed inside, she struck up a conversation with another member of the Order, Ecade. Tina wanted to get into the Order's good graces, and so after derailing Ecade's chess practice, she offered to help him with some favors, taking on both of the tasks that he needed help with before returning home for real. It was now Friday morning, and Tina wouldn't have work until Monday, but she wanted to be well prepared so that she'd leave a good impression on Grim. And what better way to do this than to truly understand ghosts? And so after lighting a candle for Sergio, Tina decided to add his ghost to her household. That's right, her ghostly ex-boyfriend that she'd accidentally killed was moving in. What could go wrong? Okay, maybe don't answer that. Now Tina was curious about one's soul's journey, and so she chatted to Sergio about working towards completing it, even convincing him to swap over to the somewhat easy to complete bodybuilder aspiration to help it along. And with Sergio now part of the household, Tina restyled Sally's room for him to match his personality. Don't get too excited, because seeing as Sergio is active, materialistic, and hates children, this led to a pretty boring room. And a side note, Tina also took a moment to pack away her party equipment now too. With Sergio now working towards his aspiration and thus his soul's journey, Tina began preparing for work as a Reaper in other ways. Notably, she was going to need souls, and so she took to her grown plants with a scythe that she could barely use and reaped a small stockpile of them, before then using her computer to read various Thanatology-related theories which springboarded her to level 3 of the Thanatology skill. It was now 7 PM and the sun was just beginning to set, and Tina grabbed Sergio and convinced him to come with her for a night out in Morningvale. More specifically, she needed to visit Afterlife Anonymous for Ecade's favors, and she felt it would be a little less awkward if she brought a ghost along with her. Things started well, with Tina meeting ghosts and asking them about their unfinished business for Ecade. But they took a turn for the worse when Sergio took to the podium to talk about his ghost problems, which was basically just bagging out Tina. And if that wasn't bad enough, one of the ghosts who had shown up that night was none other than Vlad himself. And yes, they got into a fight. Strangely, the last time they fought, they'd been an insanely strong vampire and an all-powerful spellcaster. Now they were simply fighting as an underwhelming ghost and a human. Tina wiped the floor with Vlad twice, and while satisfying, she also didn't think that she'd be invited back to Afterlife Anonymous anytime soon. When the pair went to return home at 11 PM, Sergio begged Tina to take him to the gym first. Venting about her had made him energetic, and Tina couldn't really be bothered arguing. They made their way to Sky Fitness, and while Sergio worked out while energized and even pushed the limits, Tina opened and closed her umbrella on the basketball court. I guess you could argue that she was working on her court positioning. Upon returning home at 3 AM, Tina fixed up her needs, tended to her garden, vacuumed the floor, and repaired broken appliances around the house. It was then that Sergio came to her and desperately asked if she'd buy him a treadmill. Tina begrudgingly agreed, though they were a bit low on space so it had to go out the back. Sergio immediately went on it, and after a little running he reached level 4 fitness and in turn completed the second stage of the bodybuilder aspiration. It was a feat that led him to reaching the first checkpoint in his soul's journey as well. When it reached midday on Saturday, Tina headed off to the Ravenwood Family Day that was taking place within the Crow's Crossing, and here she searched for frogs in the fountain to help along Ecade's favour. She then socialised with and gifted the nearby raven a fish, which saw her make a new friend and receive the World's Tarot card. Tina then used her phone to purchase a toy, being Butterfly McButterflyface, before searching for frogs in the fountain once again, and this time her search secured the elusive and very rare death frog. Tina then left the festival and travelled to Ecade's house before finding him out the front, and after handing over Butterfly McButterflyface and reporting back regarding her time at Afterlife Anonymous, Tina received the Emperor and the Lover's Tarot cards. Ecade then hinted that another Order member lived close by, and that she needed help with a few things too. And so Tina jogged a short ways over to the Gomez's home, and after being allowed inside, she found Zelmira cooking out the back. Tina explained all that she'd done to help out the other Order members and then offered to help Zelmira, taking on both of the favors that she wanted done. She left to return home as the moon rose, and after arriving home, Tina harvested her plants, which importantly included a death flower, fixed up her needs, and rotated out her hematite jewelry to remain death-proof. She then purchased and read a Thanatology skill book to both help along her favor for Zelmira and to train up her Thanatology skill, all the while Sergio maintained his intense workout schedule. Throughout the early morning, Tina left a sugar skull offering and sadly obtained a skull from the collection that she already had. She also reaped more plant souls, took care of Broomy, and even enjoyed a small nap. All the while, Sergio did what I personally could never and went for a jog at 5 AM. It was in the early afternoon that Tina left to visit Edith, a little curious as to how she was going. Here she used intuition on the well and failed, and then used it on Edith's grave to obtain the Suspension Tarot card. Afterwards, Tina made the most of her friendship with Edith, chatting to her and successfully obtaining her mark before making a wish for untold riches and seeing a little over 9,000 simoleons fall into her lap. She then used intuition on the well once again and obtained the Tower Tarot card before returning back home. It was then that Tina took a moment to set up a memorial in her house before dedicating it to Sergio, hoping that it would motivate him to continue working towards his soul's journey. And after taking a photo of the display she set up, Tina travelled to Zelmira's house. Here she delivered a photo and the death flower, and in return Zelmira handed to Tina both the Sun and the Magician tarot cards, before letting her know that there was one more order member, Nyan, who could use a little help. Having found 11 of the 26 cards, Tina's tarot collection was coming along nicely, but she still had 15 to collect. On her way home, she visited the Spectre household, and after being allowed into the house, she found Nyan watching television upstairs. Following a little chatter, Tina learned that he was obsessed with her boss, the Grim Reaper. And yes, he also had 2 favors to ask of Tina, one being to deliver Grim a gnome, and the other to investigate the Spectre graves and purchase souls from a mysterious figure named Waylon. Tina took them on, and seeing as the Spectre graves were literally a stone throw away, she popped on over to them. Here she read the epitaphs of the 4 graves, and even used her intuition on them, which saw her obtain the Wheel of Fortune tarot card and make progress towards her favor. She then chatted to Waylon the ghost nearby and browsed his store. Now not only did Tina purchase 4 souls, but she also picked up 2 new tarot cards from his shop as well, being the Chariot and the Hermit, before then finally returning back home at 4 AM. She used the early hours of the morning to fix up her needs, and then when the clock struck 10 AM, it was time for Tina's first day of work in the Reaper career. She immediately spent a little time chit-chatting to Grim before delivering Nyan's gnome to him, and then after sitting on it, she somehow got stuck behind a lounge. Literally, I don't know how this happened, and all she could do was stand there and sing. After I cheated Tina into open space, her workday truly began. She scried for an assignment, only to be hit with an emergency on her first day, whereby multiple Sims had passed away from laughter at a comedy show. Tina undertook her investigations, determined the cause of death, and got to work reaping, though there was a small problem in that her work task suggested there were 4 souls to reap. However, despite looking absolutely everywhere, I could only find 3. I'm honestly not entirely sure what was going on here. What I was sure of though was that this was going to screw over Tina's hopes of a promotion because it blocked her from increasing her work performance. And without reaping the 4th soul, there was literally no interaction to return to the office where she could have improved her work performance in other ways. And so Tina did the only thing she could do. She danced for the rest of her workday. I mean, they do say that you shouldn't stress over things you have no control over, right? But yeah, the first day of work was a disaster. Tina headed straight to Nyan's house after finishing work, with the order member setting his barbecue alight just moments after Tina arrived. She took matters into her own hands and put out the blaze, before chatting with Nyan and reporting back that she'd completed his favors. And in turn, he handed her both the Fool and the Advocate tarot cards. Nyan was in awe of Tina. She was a budding Reaper, she'd saved him from a house fire, and she'd completed all of his favors. And so he spilled. Apparently the Grim Reaper bestows an immensely powerful trait onto those who impress them and reach the top of their career. And as for the tarot cards, well, when made into a deck, not only would they allow her to summon Lady Ravendancer Goth, but the deck also had some additional powers. Nyan was so keen to be liked by Tina that he even gave her a tip-off, revealing that one card was believed to be hidden at the full moon revelry that was happening beside the Ancestor rock face at this very moment. And so that's exactly where Tina headed next. She arrived to find a bunch of Sims pretending to be nude by still very much wearing their underwear underneath the blurred pixels. Bit random, but I kind of felt like the pixels made it seem more scandalous than it actually was. Tina joined in the fire dancing, and it was while playing with fire that she noticed a peculiar pile of dirt on the ground. She decided to have a poke around, and sure enough, just beneath the dirt was the Moon Tarot card, which she pocketed. After grabbing a bite to eat nearby the crowd pretending to be naked and having a brief chat with Arcade, Tina then travelled back home before unfortunately failing when leaving a Sugar Skull offering. She then chatted to Sergio, who was working hard towards his aspiration and thus his soul's journey. He simply needed level 10 fitness to fully complete the bodybuilder aspiration. And Tina? Well, she had a trick up her sleeve. In the early morning before work, she took Sergio to the basketball courts in San Myshuno and coached him as he repeatedly dreamed big on the hoop. Tina couldn't help but have a few shots herself, and this training session springboarded Sergio to level 8 of the fitness skill before Tina had to leave for work. She was determined to make her second day in the career better, and so she started off by releasing a heap of her stockpiled souls to the Netherworld portal, which boosted her work performance and completed a promotion task. Afterwards, she went inside and scried for her work assignment, which led her to a lot filled with escaped souls that needed collecting and Netherworld fissures that needed closing. Tina began with the fissures, reaching into them first to obtain a collectible before closing them up with her scythe. Most notably, she found a Salvadoradian treasure worth over 9,000 simoleons. Not bad at all. She then picked up a heap of floating souls that were lingering around a lot and harvested some Grimbrosia before returning to the office where she released 5 souls to the Netherworld portal. She cooked up the Grimbrosia and gifted it to Grim. Only, they somehow got themselves stuck behind the couch. Seriously, that couch though. Grim still received the gift though, but between us, I was kind of furious. I think it's a bug, but Grimbrosia stacks with Ambrosia in a Sim's inventory, and when I gifted Grim the Grimbrosia, they actually took the Ambrosia from my inventory instead. I had Tina convert the Grimbrosia into Horsebrosia, so at least not everything was lost, and she then finished off the day by planning some reaping schedules while Grim was forced to watch on from behind the couch. Overall, it was a highly successful workday that led to Tina being promoted to a collections agent, and to celebrate, Tina bought herself a Freezer Bony and popped it into her inventory, starting the Freezer Bony collection. Now this collection was originally from the Reaper Rewards event, but now it's just bought straight from buy mode. That being said, I've decided to tie it into the Reaper career and have Tina reward herself with one alongside every promotion. It was also now that Tina decided if she wanted to impress Grim, she was going to have to commit, and so she restyled her living room to fit a more deadly aesthetic, although she did keep her past familiars orbs out for all to admire. She then repaired her computer and afterwards read Thanatology theories online until she maxed out the Thanatology skill at level 5. Following this, Tina paid over 7,000 simoleons in bills, and as Sergio continued flexing his actual muscles, Tina decided it was time to flex her writing muscles. Once again, clickbait skill books were the goal, and so Tina wrote a fitness guidebook titled Stop Exercising, Start Dreaming Big, a logic guidebook titled Why is the King in Chess So Useless, and finally a programming guidebook titled Yes, that shady website will give you a virus. After finishing all 3 of the books, she made copies of them before publishing the originals, and doing this completed the 3rd stage of the best-selling author aspiration, and it also saw her reach the 4th stage of her soul's journey called No Regrets. Notably, this extends Tina's lifespan and makes it so she doesn't have to find ways to reset her age as often. Before work, Tina travelled to San Myshuno with Sergio and hit the courts, and after Sergio dreamt big for a few hours, he maxed out the fitness skill and completed in full the bodybuilder aspiration. Importantly, this also saw Sergio complete the 2nd stage of his soul's journey, but there was no time to explain next steps because Tina's workday was starting. She scried for her assignment and did a little research before heading to the scene. Today's task, an emotional reaping where she decides someone's fate. She briefly thought of the Judgment Tarot card that had led Tina into the Reaper career, before focusing on the job. Tina spoke to a hot witness named Manuel outside before being led into the house where another hottie named Yoltik had passed. After investigating some chairs and Yoltik himself, she determined his cause of death. But in a plot twist before the reaping, Carmen had a plea for Tina. To be honest, Tina didn't listen to it. She just knew that Yoltik was a hottie and looked like he had boyfriend potential, and so she handed down her judgment and decided to revive him, although weirdly she couldn't talk to him after, and so after flirting with Manuel for a little while, she returned back to the office. Here she released numerous souls to the Netherworld portal to boost her work performance. And sure enough, when the workday ended, Tina was promoted to a Soul Slayer. And yes, she rewarded herself with another Freezer Bony for her efforts. Now Tina's focus was still firmly on the best-selling author aspiration, and her final stage involved completing 3 bestsellers. Tina was going to pull out all the stops to boost her chances. She already had the creative visionary reward trait that would increase her chances of producing bestsellers, and on top of this she added the home studio trait to her lot, which would boost this even higher. Then to top it off, Tina purchased a heap of inspired potions, and by periodically drinking these, she would remain very inspired at all times while writing. And so after fixing up her needs and drinking one of her inspired potions, she settled in for a night of writing. But rather than writing skill books, she wanted to try something different. She wanted to write from the heart and share with others her personal experiences. And so she wrote What to Do When Your Sassy Mother's an Evil Train Wreck. I mean, it was the book she wished she could have drawn from when she was growing up. She followed this up with a book titled The Red Flag You Never Knew About, your boyfriend being named after a planet, in clear reference to Mars. And then the final book she wrote was simply titled Sergio Oh No. It also didn't have a description because Tina wanted to keep people guessing what it was about. Now if you thought these books were either way too specific or way too vague to be bestseller quality, then you'd be, well, partially right. 2 out of the 3 came out bestsellers, and Tina wasted no time in making copies and publishing them. Also, side note, it was Harvest Fest, so Tina had a holiday day. Although this just meant that she could lock down that 3rd bestseller. She felt like something different for her next book. And I'm not saying Tina wanted to start some drama, but she did decide on writing a comedy book titled Nancy. Yes, after Nancy Landgrab. And to the surprise of no one, it came out bestseller quality, with Tina wasting no time in copying and publishing the book. Now at this stage, the best-selling author aspiration was simply a royalties waiting game, and so I had Tina swap over to the ghost historian aspiration. And following a quick chat with Sergio, the entire first stage and most of the second stage automatically completed. Now Tina was chatting to Sergio about his soul's journey, and in particular, what he could do to keep it progressing. They agreed that taking on the curator aspiration was a great next step, although any collectibles Sergio found would be sold and any money gained from them would be removed from Tina's household funds. On top of this, Tina wanted Sergio to work on his unfinished business, handing him a journal and encouraging him to find some goals. He did just that, and it turns out that Sergio wants to be married, become the ultimate bowling champion, and raid a tomb or temple in Selvadorada. It was giving main character energy, of which Sergio is not. Now that Sergio had a little direction, Tina could focus back on her own goals, and she travelled back to Morningvale at 2 AM and began exploring the crypt nearby Percival the cow plant. And exploring this crypt was hugely successful. By finding rare items such as a llamacorn toy, Tina completed in full the 2nd stage of the Ghost Historian aspiration, and even made significant progress towards the 3rd. This then had a flow-on effect of seeing Tina reach the 5th stage of her soul's journey, and exploring the crypt also saw her obtain a few new tarot cards, including the Cups and the Swords cards. All the while, her book royalties were really rolling on in. Tina got so lost in exploring that before she knew it, it was time for work, and she arrived to an afterlife emergency. And no, it wasn't Grim getting stuck behind a couch. Afterlife things. Who knew they were so flimsy? Thankfully, Tina knew her way around a spanner. She got to work repairing the scrying bowl and the netherworld portal, recalibrating Grim's slablet, expelling a mischievous ghost who just loved bookcases, and reaching into before closing netherworld fissures. Also rather luckily, Tina found a duplicate golden Selvadoradian treasure. Yes, money. Following all of this, Tina released souls to the netherworld portal to boost her work performance and fulfill her promotion task. And having reached her soul quota, she was then allowed to collect a reward from Grimm's box. Unfortunately, from what I could tell, I think she got nothing. I combed through her inventory and couldn't see anything new, although there's definitely a solid chance I missed it being a random duplicate item. When work finished up, Tina was promoted to a spirit expert, and I of course had her claim another freezer bony upon returning home. And as Tina used her usual tricks to boost her energy need and even took a short nap, I had Sergio collect collectibles for his aspiration. And when I say collect, I mean he purchased 10 crystals on a computer to then complete the 1st stage of his aspiration before buying another 5 to help along a task from the 2nd stage. It was early on Saturday morning that Tina and Sergio visited the Crow's Crossing in Ravenwood, and while Tina had unfinished business exploring crypts, Sergio followed his own path and searched for collectibles around the world, with the ghost notably finding multiple frogs and even a fossil. And this led to him reaching the third stage of his soul's journey. Despite his bad mood, he was loving life. Tina was having a little less luck exploring crypts, and unfortunately she failed to find any new tarot cards. She decided to take a break from exploring and visit Edith, and after making contact, Tina completed the third stage of the Ghost Historian aspiration and made some progress towards the fourth. Tina then successfully asked Edith for her mark, and with its power she wished for a long life at the well to reset her current life stage. And that's not all. Just before leaving, Tina used her intuition on the well to obtain the Evil Tarot card, and she had now found 20 of the 26 cards in the collection. Tina and Sergio both made their ways back home, and here Tina did some gardening before writing a Reaper's training manual throughout the night, which was required for her next promotion. She also took the time to write 3 horror books as well, titled The Girl Who Got Pregnant, The Hidden Dangers of Vending Machines, and finally Nancy. Yes, again named after Nancy Landgrab. To reiterate, Tina really wasn't looking for drama, but a horror book named Nancy was a guaranteed bestseller. Finishing the 3 books saw Tina complete in full the Ghost Historian aspiration, and for this she was awarded with the Ghost Whisperer trait, which would notably boost her relations with ghosts. Finishing off this aspiration also saw Tina complete the Dreams Fulfilled stage of her soul's journey, and she'd now taken her journey as far as she could without being in ghost form. Feeling fulfilled, Tina swapped back over to the best-selling author aspiration before she hurried on over to work. It was a pretty standard day. Well, at least as standard as possible when you're resurrecting a sim who has passed away in a house full of cats. And after returning to the office and releasing a few souls to the netherworld, Tina went to hang out with her boss Grim. They were becoming besties, and the Reaper was pleased with how Tina was going in her career, although they did question why she'd changed out of uniform before asking her to buy an outfit that was more suitable for a life of reaping souls. Surprisingly, Grim liked Tina so much that they even agreed to engage in some seductive dancing with her. Who knew that Grim had these incredible moves? And at the end of the workday, Tina was promoted to a Nether Tether, a promotion that came with the self-bought reward of another Freezer Bony. With Tina having completed the Dreams Fulfilled section of her soul's journey, she then had an idea that would help Sergio with his own. She sat him down and then passed down to him her collector trait, which would in turn come in handy for Sergio as he worked towards completing the curator aspiration that focused on collections. After a night of gardening, repairing, cleaning, and successfully obtaining another sugar skull from the collection, come morning Tina took a trip to Morningvale, stopping along the way to add 3 new outfits to her wardrobe that she was hoping Grim would love. Here she found another crypt that she eagerly explored, and after spending literally all of Monday searching inside the crypt, she emerged at 1 AM on Tuesday morning, having found both the Wands and the Coins tarot cards. It was because it was so dark that in the distance she noticed a bright blue glow coming from what appeared to be a grand tree. Tina was very curious. She raced over to it and used her intuition on it, which then saw her find the Justice tarot card. Nearby to this tree was a sad ghost named Alice, and after chatting with her for a while, Tina learned that she needed help. However, Tina had already helped the Order of Lenore with their shenanigans, and so she told Alice that she'd deal with her problem another time when it suited her better. After waiting a little while longer at the Grand Tree, Tina then used her intuition again and obtained the Star Tarot card. And now her collection was nearing very close to completion. Following this, Tina returned home in the early hours of the morning and sadly failed when asking for a sugar skull. And after enjoying some breakfast, Tina took Sergio out for a day of collecting fossils in Oasis Springs. And after he dug up a few more fossils, he then completed the second stage of the Curator aspiration. He moved straight onto the third and took some time to collect frogs and breed them while Tina fished in the pond nearby. The pair returned home around midday, with Sergio immediately sending a heap of crystals off to the Geological Council while Tina paid over 8,000 simoleons in bills, and afterwards Tina went straight to the Crow's Crossing within the Ravenwood. Here she visited the Spectre family to check in on Nyan, and while they were chatting she fell in love with the Raven artwork on the wall. Only when she then went to steal it, Nyan stopped her. Tina was furious. After all she'd done for him, he wouldn't even let her steal his family's art. It didn't make sense. and the pair then had a huge argument that lasted hours before Tina left in a foul mood and a little bored from her lack of spying on others. She made her way to the playground in the Crow's Crossing, and here she sought catharsis from the specters. This not only made her happy, but it also saw her obtain the Temperance Tarot card, and after a brief swing, because who doesn't love a swing, Tina travelled back home. After fixing her needs and relaxing overnight, the following morning Tina was thrilled when her royalties rolled in. The funds that hit her pocket brought Tina's total book royalties to over $25,000, and in turn finished off the best-selling author aspiration. Her reward? The poetic trait that allows Sims to write the Book of Life. A book so strong that it can bring a ghost back to life. And this is exactly the book that Tina started writing next. But if you thought this was for Sergio, then you'd be very, very wrong. Tina was writing the book for Sally as a means of immortalizing her, and while she had plans for Sergio too, they were, well, a little more sinister. After finishing the book, Tina used it to capture the epic saga of Sally's life, all the while Sergio grabbed the mail to receive a range of elements and continued breeding frogs. Unfortunately, due to Winterfest, Tina wouldn't go to her active workday, and even more unfortunately, her attempts to hack her work performance failed and backfired. And so unfortunately, she wasn't promoted after attending work in a rabbit hole that night. Tina returned home and fixed up her needs overnight before playing games and absorbing energy, and she even rotated out her hematite jewelry to remain death-proof. Then as the sun rose in the morning, Sergio built a snow pal and bred the final frog needed to complete the third stage of the curator aspiration. But it wasn't the aspiration goal that was exciting. Rather, it was the fact that Sergio reached the no-regret stage of his soul's journey. Tina was thrilled, but at the same time it was like a sinister switch flicked in her mind. All of a sudden, rather than encouraging Sergio to continue his soul's journey, she was suggesting that he'd already achieved enough, and instead move on to the great beyond. At first, Sergio was taken back, shocked by what Tina was telling him, but the more he listened to her talk, the more he thought she might be right. Maybe it was because they had history. Maybe it was because Tina threw in some light flirting. Or possibly it was Tina's newly acquired ghost whisperer trait that made her words just so convincing. But either way, Sergio was buckling. Why complete his soul's journey when he could just move on? The idea of moving on wasn't even a thought when the day started, but now it was an urge that Sergio couldn't resist. After cleaning out his inventory and removing any profits from Tina's household funds, Sergio made his way back to his urn. Then with Tina watching, he moved on to the great beyond, leaving behind the world for good. But while Sergio had permanently left, his legacy would live on, for he left two things behind. One being his bright green plum bob, and the other being the perspectives on death trait for Tina, which would help her to deal with grief better and also provide her with a boost to her soul's journey. Tina lit a few candles for Sergio, and then later that afternoon it was time for work. Here Tina performed a standard reaping and released a few souls to boost her work performance. And with a little time to spare, she continued chatting to Grim, throwing some light flirting in while she was at it. It was while chatting that they got onto the topic of tarot cards. Tina had just one card left to uncover, but she was having trouble pinning it down. Grim gave her a knowing look, I think. It was kind of hard to tell, and he told Tina to hit him up after hours where he'd be able to help her out. At the end of the day, she was promoted to Death's Negotiation Reporter, and after rewarding herself with another freezer bony and obtaining another sugar skull overnight, come morning she decided to hit up Grim to have them deliver on their promise. Having obtained 25 cards from the collection, she could now use them to summon the Grim Reaper. He arrived instantly and glided to Tina's house as smoothly as an Olympic ice skater, before gifting her the Death Tarot card and vanishing in an instant. It was the final card she needed, and the tarot card collection was now officially complete. And while she could combine the cards into Lady Ravendancer's deck, because of the bug impacting on collections while at university, I decided to have Tina purchase it for 8,000 satisfaction points instead. I mean, she did have points to spare. Tina was thrilled, and she immediately used the power of the deck for some affirmation healing, which removed her negative moodlets. and then to help her with a divine slumber, which provided Tina a happy moodlet, during which time her energy would regenerate faster while sleeping. Following a restful sleep, Tina then pulled on the divine strength of the cards and used the final power of the deck to summon Lady Ravendancer Goth herself. She arrived moments later, and the pair quickly struck up a friendship, with Tina being thrilled to have befriended such a strong ethereal figure. Lady Ravendancer was a romantic, and all her chatter about love put the idea of romance right back into Tina's mind. After a relaxing night of cleaning and reading, followed by a morning spent playing in the snow and fixing her needs, it was then time for work. She flew through the day collecting escaped souls and also reaching into and closing netherworld fissures. Also yes, she did obtain more extremely valuable Salvadoradian treasures. Then after returning to the office and releasing some souls, Tina started hanging out with Grim. And feeling empowered by Lady Ravendancer's romantic pointers, Tina caught herself flirting. Some part of her told her it was a bad idea, but another told her to go for it. Maybe it was their eyes. Well, probably not. Or their lips. No, their hands. No, it was not their hands. Tina didn't know what it was, but she was attracted to Grim, and after a few hours of flirting, she felt the encouraging words of Lady Ravendancer play over in her head, which led to her going for it. She had her first kiss with Grim. She felt both dread and the fluttery feeling of a crush, and it was just moments later that the workday ended with Tina securing yet another promotion to a Graveling. After returning home, she rewarded herself with another Freezer Bony from the collection, and with this, Tina had completed the Freezer Bony collection in full. Overnight, Tina used her garden to undertake a major souls restock and afterwards daydreamed about Grim. But she didn't have too long to think, because after fixing her needs throughout the night, she headed back to work at 10 AM in the morning, right as the winter snow was thawing. She arrived to another maintenance emergency, and so she spent the first half of her shift repairing broken objects, reaching into and closing netherworld fissures while finding more Salvadoradian treasures and releasing the 10 souls she needed to for her promotion task. And once her work was done, she went and made out with Grim. She knew it was bad, but she couldn't help herself. They were just so mysterious. So tall, dark, and handsome. Well, she wasn't sure if they were actually handsome, and like they were the same height as her, but they were dark. They wore a lot of black. Tina felt herself getting carried away in the messiness of it all, and to spice things up, she asked Grim to be her romantic partner. He eagerly accepted, and the pair ecstatically celebrated right as Tina's workday finished up. And as you'd expect, Tina was promoted to the top of the Reaper career, and in addition to a pay rise and a very fancy new work uniform, Tina also obtained the coveted Grim's right-hand reward trait, which is quite possibly one of the best in the game. Not only does it allow Tina to break and dirty or repair and clean a range of household objects, but it also makes her completely death-proof. That's right, no more relying on rotating out hematite jewelry. Tina achieved so much this episode. She reached the top of the Reaper career, completed 2 aspirations, obtained 4 new traits, and completed 2 collections in full. Although you could argue that the Freezer Bonies were just purchased from buy mode. Tina settled down for the night and enjoyed a small nap by the fireplace, but it was when she woke that something in her mind clicked. What the hell had she just done? She just wanted Grim's right-hand trait, but she had gotten so caught up in the moment, and when she stopped to think about it, well, she didn't want to be in a relationship with the damn Grim Reaper. That romantic Lady Ravendancer had gotten into her head. She would be getting an earful the next time she was summoned. Crap, crap, crap. Solutions, Tina. Solutions. There's a way out of this disaster. Probably. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, then consider subscribing to stay up to date with the series. And I hope you have an amazing day. See you later.